Most men believe attraction is about charm, or about saying the right words, or showing effort at every turn. But psychology teaches something far deeper, something most people overlook. It's not the actions that make someone think about you. It's the way presence and absence are managed. It's subtle, quiet, unseen. Think about it. The people who linger in your mind long after a conversation ends. They weren't the loudest voices. They didn't demand attention. Yet their absence feels heavy. That's the invisible power most men ignore. You see, attention is easy to give. Presence is even easier to maintain. But the kind of impact that makes someone replay your conversations, remember your words, think of you at odd hours, that requires strategy grounded in psychology. It starts with awareness of human patterns. People subconsciously notice contrasts. Routine, predictability, and reliability become invisible. Your voice, your respect, your calm, all unnoticed until absence creates a vacuum. This is the first step of influence, not manipulation, not trickery, but quiet psychological leverage. It's about creating space while remaining valued. It's about being remembered without demanding it. It's about planting impressions that naturally grow over time. And here's the key most men miss. Your worth is often invisible while present, but it becomes undeniable when your presence isn't available. Subtlety is everything. A glance, a carefully timed word, a calm boundary. None of this is forceful. None of it screams for attention. Instead, it whispers value. And the mind catches whispers far better than shouts. At this point, some men panic. They think they must be constant. They believe effort equals attention. But psychology tells a different story. The less predictable, the more mentally stimulating you are. Not chaotic, not reckless, just intentionally measured. Here's what happens next. She begins noticing patterns she never appreciated before. The subtle kindness, the respect without demanding acknowledgement, the moments of clarity and calm. And this is why some men remain on her mind long after interactions end. Here's where most men get it wrong. They assume that if a woman isn't interested, the solution is more effort, more messages, more explanations, more availability. Psychology says the opposite. The human mind doesn't attach itself to what is fully accessible. It attaches itself to what feels almost understood, but not completely owned. This is called cognitive engagement. When the mind hasn't finished processing something, it keeps returning to it. That's why unfinished conversations stay longer in memory than long speeches. That's why brief interactions can feel deeper than constant contact. And that's why emotional restraint is far more powerful than emotional chasing. Attraction doesn't grow in noise. It grows in contrast. When your energy is calm but intentional. When your presence is meaningful but not constant. When you engage fully, then step back without anxiety. You create a psychological loop. She begins asking herself questions, not about you, but about her reactions to you. And that's the turning point. The moment someone starts analyzing how they feel around you, you've already entered their inner dialogue. Here's the uncomfortable truth. People don't miss what they can control. They miss what made them feel something without trying. This is why emotional independence is magnetic, not emotional distance, not coldness, but self-contained presence. You're warm, but not needy, engaged, but not dependent, respectful, but not over-accommodating. That balance creates uncertainty, and uncertainty activates attention. Now something subtle happens. She starts noticing small details. Your tone, your timing, your calm reactions. Things she would have ignored before suddenly stand out. Not because you changed, but because her perception did. And perception always comes before desire. This is also why trying to convince someone never works. Conviction is internal. You don't argue someone into thinking about you. You let their mind do the work on its own. Silence becomes louder. Absence becomes noticeable. Your name starts showing up in quiet moments. Not because you demanded space, but because you didn't fear it. And that's where real influence begins. Before we go deeper, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to Masculine Mind Lab. It helps this message reach men who are quietly dealing with this, but don't have the words for it. Now let's continue. Now let's talk about what actually changes her behavior. Not theories, not motivation quotes, but subtle shifts that rewire how you're experienced. First, stop closing emotional loops too fast. Most men rush to resolve tension. They explain themselves immediately. They respond instantly. They clarify everything. That kills curiosity. When something is resolved too quickly, the mind lets it go. When something is left slightly open, the mind revisits it. This doesn't mean playing games. It means allowing moments to breathe. A conversation doesn't need to end perfectly. A message doesn't need a paragraph. A connection doesn't need constant reassurance. Leave space. Space is where thought happens. Second, be consistent, not constant. Consistency builds trust. Constancy builds familiarity. But familiarity without mystery leads to emotional flatline. Show up the same way when you show up, but don't show up all the time. When your presence has rhythm instead of randomness, it becomes anticipated. And anticipation is stronger than availability. Third, react slower than expected. This is powerful, not ignoring, not delaying on purpose, but grounding yourself before responding. A calm response to emotional energy signals strength. A measured reply signals self-control. And self-control reads as value. People trust the emotional frame of the person who isn't rushed. Fourth, end interactions first, on a high note. Most men overstay. They keep talking until the energy drops. They keep texting until the conversation dies. Instead, leave when things are good. This trains the brain to associate you with positive emotion, not exhaustion. The mind remembers peaks, not duration. Fifth, live a life she doesn't need to manage. This is the core. When your happiness, direction, and emotional stability don't depend on her reactions, you become mentally stimulating. Because now she's not just interacting with you, she's observing you. And people think more about what they're observing than what they're controlling. Here's the final truth. You don't make a woman think about you by occupying her time. You do it by occupying her emotional processing. When you are calm, grounded, purposeful, and unafraid of space, her mind fills in the gaps for you. And the most powerful influence is the one that feels self-generated. If this resonated with you, follow Masculine Mind Lab. Not for motivation, but for clarity, self-respect, and emotional strength.